Hello everyone, this is Arshia Khadri, Assistant Professor of English at Chishtiya College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Kundapur. I am presenting before you micro teaching for the refresher course in Comparative Literature and Translational Studies for the UGC MMTC Center, Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar Marathwada University, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. My topic for the micro teaching is communication skill. Communication skills plays a very important role in every part of human world. Someone has rightly said that if you want to be strong, be a craftsman in speech. For the strength of one is the tongue, and the strength of one, and this. If you want to be strong, be a craftsman in speech. For the strength of one is the tongue, and the speech of one is mightier than all fightings. It's a fact that human beings spend more time communicating than doing anything else. A person spends approximately 75% of his or her time speaking and listening. About 80% of communication occurs at the nonverbal or body language level. Thus, the most important aspects of process of communication is namely verbal and nonverbal communication. Some of the famous writers, authors, or scholars defined communication as. Keith Davis says that communication is a process of passing information and understanding from one person to another, whereas Newman and Summer communicate defines communication as an exchange of facts, ideas, opinion, or emotion by two or more persons. And I.A. Richards says that communication is the exchange of meanings between individuals through a common system of symbols. So, if we can take the definitions of communication by the three of the most important or most famous authors, scholars, the process of communication can be diagrammed as the sender who encodes his message using a medium. Medium could be verbal or non-verbal, which is common between the receiver and the sender. The receiver receives the message from the sender with the medium and he or she decodes the message and then provide feedback to the sender. So this medium plays a very important role for the sender and the receiver for encoding and the decoding process that takes place to provide feedback whether the receiver understand the sender's message or not. For this effective communication, we have to understand the message exactly the way you meant to be understood. Thus, effective communication takes place when the receiver understands your message exactly. For the effective communication, we can follow. There are 7 C's of communication which makes your communication effective. The first and foremost is the correctness. Correctness of language, correctness of presentation. Your language should be correct. There should be no grammatical errors. That is the correctness of communication. then it should be clear. The message you wanted to pass, the communication that you want to be understood by the receiver should be clear. It should not be ambiguous. And the third C is that conciseness. Conciseness is the process that if you are sending your message, if you want to be understood clearly with a clear language, the message should be in the concise form. Now, concise is the quality of being short and clear and expressing what needs to be said without unnecessary words. This is the conciseness of your communication. The fourth C presents the polite and pleasant behavior, that is courtesy, that shows respect for other people. This is courtesy. Consideration. You should understand the receiver's end as well. We should consider their limitation while communicating with others. Concreteness. It should be firm with confident, whatever you want to communicate. Completeness. Completeness of your message, completeness of your thoughts, completeness of your sentences. It carries all the basics of completeness. Thus, with the help of these 7 C's, you can make your communication clear, correct, concise, and complete, and overall effective. Communication could be of two types: verbal communication, that includes oral communication, that is speaking and listening. One speaks and the other listens. This is oral communication. Second is written communication. One can communicate with each other by writing and reading. One writes, other reads. This is the verbal form of communication. Then there is second form of communication is non-verbal communication without using words, oral or written. You can communicate even without using words by your facial expressions, eye contact, tone of voice, body posture, motions, and silence. But there are many barriers for the effective communication. If your language could not be understood, if there are many hurdles to communicate properly through a proper channel, we have taken some of the barriers, that is physical and external barriers. Physical and external barriers means the receiver or the sender far apart. They can't see each other. They are away from each other's eyes physically. This is the physical barrier. So that, and there is no means of reaching out to the another person to whom you want to communicate. This is physical barrier. Language or semantic barriers. If you don't know the language of other person whom you want to communicate, that is the language barrier, or he does not understand your language. Socio-cultural barriers, psychological barriers, perceptual barriers, health barriers. These are the barriers for effective communication. Now, there are many barriers as we have discussed, but we still can overcome these barriers by choosing proper strategies, by following certain strategies. One must choose the correct medium for communication. The communication will be such that can be understood from both the ends. So, words have to be chosen wisely. Watch yourself constantly to overcome your deficiencies. Understand the cultural and social background of the receiver. If you want to do well, your health must be at its best. These are some of the strategies that with the help of these strategy, you can overcome the effective communication barrier. Objectives of goals of communication. Let me tell you why we want to communicate properly, effectively. Even why we want to communicate to build relationships, to reduce conflicts between each other, sharing information, ideas, and feelings, dealing with customers, persuasion, and decision making. Communication can build up, remove the gaps between the conflicts, bad relations, making decisions, and sharing information. That's why it is very necessary that communication should be proper and effective. By following all these rules, we can communicate with each other to present ourselves properly. Thank you very much for patiently listening and understanding my micro teaching session. Thank you.